ever wanted to get in the mind of your customer, really understand where they're coming from? Not only understand where they're coming from, but today, John Brewer, we're going to talk about last time John was on, 4 months ago compared to now, what's happened, what's changed, and what's new, and what's coming up for the rest of 2022.
Glad to be on.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. Yeah, Jeff took the belt again today.
So that's two for Jeff. That's two this week for Jeff. So Jeff's at 2.
Now, Lisa has 2 as well. 2 because Jeff was on the show yesterday, so Lisa automatically
Greg
won
because she said hello. Greg won yesterday.
Oh, that's right. Greg won yesterday.
Greg came in and snuck in, so
that's right. Okay, so Lisa's won, Jeff's 2, Greg's 1.
Yeah.
So now tomorrow will have to be Lisa's tiebreaker or Greg's tiebreaker. Yeah. I don't even know if Greg is on today, but hey, okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, John.
Good morning,
Jeff says, good morning, John.
Morning.
And then Ryan says, John is such a treasure. He has helped me close 2 customers with his knowledge. He's so willing to share.
That's awesome.
Weren't we
That's great.
Just talking about that backstage?
Right?
Yeah.
You just said it.
Yeah. In the lead. Boom.
Lisa's calling for the tie.
Yeah, Lisa's calling for it.
That might be fun.
You know what? That'll be good. Now, what would be we could discuss that later. So
yeah, we'll discuss that later. Let's get into it.
So just quick update, everybody. Actually, I'll probably have swag by midweek next week. Just called from the printer. So very excited to get the swag. We're going to probably send a bunch of stuff out to every guest is going to get some swag. So hopefully when they come on again, they'll wear the swag. What? Yes. Hey, upstairs for thinking, folks. So John, I want to dive right in because
yes,
last time you were on, some of the things that stick out that I still talk about today, 60% more added to your day than you had a year ago. Going from, 25, 30 calls a week to 25, 30 calls a day. Really understanding who it is, the logistics, the actual functionality of getting everything from food to little packets of salt and pepper into your stores. Just if you could share with us, give us an update as to kind of what your world looks like now. Has anything gotten better? Are you still in that 60% of additional things you have to do in a day? And then I'd like to dive into what's really getting your attention today from sales reps calling you.
Okay. Yeah, it's we've probably done a 180 since we last talked, which is in my world not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. We're not necessarily chasing products as much anymore. The supply chain has kind of come back. It's pretty resilient. Even the smaller stuff. We are still seeing, a late delivery here and there and shortages here and there, but not near the magnitude we were dealing with. I mean, I could tell you, I'd sit down in this chair every day and I didn't even plan the day because I didn't know what was going to happen. So you just went from firefight to firefight to firefight to firefight. And we've tightened it up. It's interesting. I've actually, my new boss doesn't have a lot of logistics and distribution experience. So he's leaning on me, which is great. However, he does have a lot of purchasing experience, and he was able to go upstream and implement some things that have really provided relief to my area. So I found that kind of ironic, but it works. So I'm not complaining. No way. So, but yeah, it's quieting down a lot. We're actually starting to become more strategic. We're looking at some things. We want to shed some light on our freight spend and see if we can drive some efficiencies through that. We're also, we're looking at the areas of expedited delivery because the truck missed the train, so to speak. Those have died down, but we're still pursuing those as well. We still think it's an asset to have in our back pocket to be able to do that when the time comes and have that prepped and ready to go. So I'm resting a lot easier now.
Well, that's good. I've got it, and I don't know if you're allowed to share this, or if you can share a percentage, or if you can share a ballpark. Because I know, I mean, we didn't really have an opportunity to really get into today's conversation like we did the first conversation about what you're able to answer and what you're not. So I apologize. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have some kind of average, some kind of number of the increase in your supply chain in the first quarter of this year before things started to like level out and die down? And the reason I'm asking is to give salespeople a full understanding as to, sure, rates go up or things are hard to manage, or we take this from this country and now purchased in this country, but all of it adds to the overall cost of getting product to market, right? We go into Carl's Jr., we go into Hardee's, we buy a burger, we buy fries, we buy a sandwich, whatever we buy, you know, our cost might go up 80 cents to a buck and a half, but what does that represent on the back side of the business? Are you able to share even vague information on that for us?
You know, CKE, just like everybody else, is not immune to the food inflation that we're seeing out there. We're definitely seeing it. We're trying to offset it in certain areas, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all just bottom line stuff. So we're looking at different ways of, you know, getting more creative with how we do spend our money, the products that we do buy. You know, what can we do to streamline that? What can we do to not? And it's not all bids and stuff like that. I mean, the bids are okay, but this is just kind of thinking outside the box and trying to drive that cost down in other areas. Like I said, you can, you know, to some degree, you can do it in freight. Fuel is obviously a marker there that you got to watch, but we're driving efficiencies with, you know, our packaging. We're driving efficiencies with how we purchase things, not skimping on quality at all, but just making sure we can do some offsets. We're seeing, I would say, low double-digit percentage increase.
Okay, which is a lot. When even a low double digit, I mean, if you're low double digit between 10 and 13%, call it, that's a big number. Like when you talk overall. So if your overall freight budget is 10 million and you're 10% of that's a big number for the bottom line at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that can be a game changer.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I know one of the other customers we have on quite frequently, Greg, when he was last on, he was talking about having an additional 1.2 million square feet of warehouse space he never had before. And he said, you know, guys, do the math. 1.2 million square feet, $1.50, $1.30, $1.20, $1.60, $1.80 in some states per foot per month. He goes, that number adds up real quick. That wasn't in his $20 million budget the year before.
That's right.
And that's the reason I ask.
Yeah, the cost of money is up there too. So you hit on a very strong point. I mean, it's whether you're carrying inventory or whether you have the building that carries the inventory. It's all that's going up. I mean, it's you know, it's just getting more expensive to do business.
It is. Do you guys have specific, again, without revealing too much, like for the rest of 2022? Because I know at the beginning of 2022, when we spoke, when you were on the show, I think you came on mid-January, if am I mistaken?
It was, yeah. It was like January 13th, 14th, something like that.
Yeah. So in mid-January, it was like, you know, again, you said you weren't planning your days, you weren't anything, and there was a vision to get things back in line and to streamline things. Now that you're somewhat, I guess, streamlined, flatlined, kind of in a better position, have your overall goals for 2022 changed at all, John? Is there more strategy, more strategic plans put into place now? Because originally when we spoke in January, the conversation was it probably go till mid 2022, and we're kind of 2 months ahead of schedule. Has something changed in the overall positioning that you want your company to be at the end of 2022?
I think, you know, like I said, we were looking at June 2022 to kind of quit looking backward over our shoulder and start looking forward. And we're there. We're executing probably a little bit earlier than we even anticipated. Like I said, my boss has given me some breathing room so I can focus on, you know, the stuff I like to do, the fun stuff, and the strategic stuff. And we're actually we're on target, if not a little ahead of that. And we expect that to drive efficiencies not only in service and capacity, but also some minimalization of cost.
Nice. Okay.
Love it. Now you had mentioned on when you were back with us in January also about you're calling for disruption and refrigerated expedited. Did you see any crazier disruption in that?
We are extremely close to seeing that.
Yeah.
I can't obviously get into the details, but we've done some testing and we're finalizing that out. So nice. It's really going to be a game changer. So I'm pretty pumped about that one. I'm just all I'm waiting for is I got it in gear and foot on the brake, just waiting for the green light to go. So.
You got the back wheels spinning already, man. You're
coming off the pavement there, you know.
Yes,
revving the engine a little bit, you know.
Yes, sir.
So, the big question, John, and I'm sure the question most people watching and listening are waiting for: what gets your attention today?
A lot of stuff gets my attention today.
For me, it's anything shiny. I'm like, what?
I have this kind of running joke here, and if you ever see your trans manager or your logistics manager smiling, it's because of one of three things. Either they're completely oblivious to the situation going on, they're on the take, or both. So
that's so funny.
I was waiting for a third one, and when you said both, I'm like,
so was I. I was not expecting both.
No, I wasn't expecting both.
I will tell you to go deeper into that question, though, John, because me and Dan clearly thinking the same, wanted to help anybody listening out there. So you said a few seconds to get your attention is what you mentioned the first time. And obviously an extremely busy person like you, when is the best time, first off, to get somebody like your attention? Certain time of the day. Also, is there a specific source? LinkedIn, email, call? What is your preferred source?
I do a lot of LinkedIn. It's fast, it's quick. As long as you're not getting pitch slapped, it's okay.
I love that. That kills me. I have to say, I'm a huge Jeff Gaffigan fan. And your LinkedIn profile pic looks like it's a massive resemblance to a picture I saw of Jeff Gaffigan, because it's so small. And I just love you for it, because he is one of the funniest people ever on earth. And him and Bill Burr are probably my two favorites. And Kevin Hart too.
Yeah,
but, I just have to give it up to you, because every time I see your profile pic, I'm like, I love this dude. And then the songs you write, I'm like, I love you.
Yes, I know.
The truth.
So circling back to your original question that I kind of sidetracked us a little bit on. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's okay.
There's a lot of things that I'm looking at. I've been really, after you've been in this as long as I have, and as long as you guys have, you kind of see trends, you see things. You can tell what the weather is going to be just by what's going on outside. I'm focused on consumer confidence. You're starting to see your spot rates dip a little bit in certain areas. Of course, fuel's still exacerbating that. But I'm a real simple guy. I mean, you have income and you have outgoing on your cash flows. And, John Q. Public out there, everybody's got so much discretionary income. Okay, whether it's $5 a week or $500 a week, doesn't matter. And when your fuel prices go up and your cost of goods go up, your necessities at home go up, that eats into your discretionary income. And that discretionary income is usually spent on e-commerce, like you hit the Amazon or the Home Shopping Network, if that's still around, or you go to a restaurant versus cooking at home. Yeah. And I looked at consumer confidence, and it had dropped. And then like the very next month, you started seeing pockets of capacity open up in the market, and you're starting to see rates drop. So it was never a question of if people were going to run out of discretionary income. In my book, it was when did they have to get up from the table? And it actually went longer than I thought it would, but the government kind of stimulated that with the stimulus checks. So they kind of kept people at the table a little bit longer than maybe they should have. And that's, but even, money's going to run out sooner or later. And when it does, it's all supply and demand. And so I'm looking at that. I'm looking obviously at the Ukraine situation and what it's doing on fuel. diesel cost, because I mean that impacts things. I'm looking at honestly, I'm looking at China, lockdown in China, and all the boats that pay there. And we don't get a lot of stuff from overseas, but once that sucker opens up, it's going to be like a tsunami hitting the West Coast. And trucks that do move my stuff domestically will be impacted from imports coming in through Long Beach and LA, and they'll suck up the capacity there. So I'm cautiously watching that as well.
Are
So,
you doing anything, John, to sit down with those suppliers that you think are going to, or let me rephrase that. Are you or any of you the people you trust, meaning your brokers that you use, your asset companies that you use, the people that are involved in your network that you've partnered with? Are you expecting them, or are you trying to mitigate what's going to happen now? Like, are you getting ahead of that, saying, hey, guys, listen, when this happens, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Because you don't want to be left out in the cold.
Yeah. And to go on top of that real quick, sorry, John, but you had mentioned even the DC in Cali that you guys were already, it was kind of a pain point, or you called a heartburn point, which I love that, by the way. But yeah, you mentioned the DC. I mean, did you see that come back, and now do you think it's gonna do the same issue you were having in January? Or I guess, yeah, to Dan's point, what have you guys done for that?
We probably need to do a little bit more in the area of mitigation. One of the things that's probably keeping us kind of insulated is we do not control a lot of our freight right now. Now that with our new forward-looking model, it may change, but right now our personal exposure is limited. Now we do have our vendors who have exposure as well, and we have had to step in the past and locate capacity for them, just because we have, you got me running that ship and they don't. So little shameless plug there. But
go for it, brother, all day long.
Well deserved.
But the heartburn points out there in the West Coast, as far as we're concerned, we're pretty good. I think we've established a discipline with our suppliers. It's locked in. It's done. If we maintain our discipline, the manufacturing piece is probably going to be okay, with the exception of maybe delay in raw materials. But the outbound piece out of those suppliers may get disrupted, because, like I said, once it's like pushing, I say it's like pushing a softball through a garden hose. I don't want to be on the end of that thing when it comes out, and because it's just going to whip across the whole entire country. Unless they figure out a way to stagger it. I think when China opens up, it's actually going to be worse than the pandemic ever thought about being for Long Beach and LA. The magnitude out there is huge. And Jeff he's been beating that drum for weeks, and I appreciate everything he's saying. He's definitely got his finger on the pulse. I'm glad you guys brought him on. He knows the business left and right, and I learned so much reading his post. It's just great. And there's days that if I'm thinking it, he's saying it, and vice versa. So that's awesome.
Isn't it awesome when two people are on the same page? It's so cool. But you're right, because Shanghai and all of that side of Asia can load containers 3 times faster than we can unload them.
Yeah.
And we saw it when the canal was blocked, when the Ever Given blocked the canal. We saw that impact that happened, because all of a sudden, what was it, like 62 ships showed up like within 24 hours, because they were all just waiting. It's going to be the same thing. And we're sitting here and we're enjoying the ease of the backlog there, and it's a tsunami on its way across the ocean. And you think about all the suppliers that have product out there waiting to ship, or out there waiting to be produced, right? You think of when, like, I know from Ontario, we locked down, like completely locked down. I forget, back early in the pandemic, it was a couple of weeks, but like just listening to business owners, like, we got to double time it because it's immediate lost revenue. Like, you even look at the big chains like the Canadian Tires and all this stuff. A lot of people don't know, but most of the vendors, when we went into only what did they call it, like immediate needs goods were being sold. So corporations like Canadian Tire, there was no gazebos, there was no pool supplies, like, and having customers that deliver everything into Canadian Tires, from belts to bed sheets. He was like, yeah, I got $1 million of inventory across Canada in Canadian Tires. not a penny being sold. He says, even if they are allowed in the stores, there's drapes, like there's tarps over these shelves because they're like, you can't buy. There was a point when I was grocery shopping at a Real Canadian Superstore, and it's like a Loblaw store, and they've got, all sorts of clothes. They actually had the clothing section sectioned off. You were only allowed to buy groceries in these places.
Wow.
Yeah, and crazy. So you think of that lost revenue. Now you think of all the people that have purchased product over in Shanghai for the lockdown. Like, it's been longer than a month lockdown. And what's going to happen when that levy breaks?
Yes.
It's going to be crazy. And I mean, I'm surprised there's not already something in place to say, okay, we can only, start leaving X amount or do some, or I don't know. Maybe there is, and we just don't see it yet because it hasn't been executed, but something to alleviate it, because costs are going to skyrocket. So now not only are you months behind in actually getting your product, when your product hits short, it's going to cost you $5,000 instead of $10,000, or $5,000 instead of $2,000 to get your product where you need it to go. Your warehouse costs are going to double. There's going to be weeks delay. And who pays the demurrage on the containers? You do. Like, there's all these auxiliary costs that add up. It's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and Dan, to your point, just a heads up, anybody watching, I don't know if you caught this, but because the baby formula shortage going on, they did just do that kind of demand for immediate demand for the certain supplies that go into baby formula. So trace back, guys. If any of your stuff is tied to that, there might be supply chain ripples coming because of that. So just be aware.
Yeah, it's going to go, in my personal opinion, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I mean, even when talking just the fuel cost, they're saying fuel's going to stay high for quite some time, and I believe them. Even though it's dipping a little bit, I kind of watch those little dips, because the last 2 years we've seen very high peaks and very steep valleys, and so when it starts just kind of bobbing there a little bit, I just kind of keep an eye like a guy looking at the horizon. But until this thing can go 180 super quick, and we've seen that. We've seen it do it, and it doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of like we're living the perfect the cross between Groundhog Day and the perfect storm. It just keeps happening over and over and over every day. So the other thing you brought up, Dan, that I found interesting, and I actually went and did some research on this. It does impact our food cost, is these countries who are putting out export bans. I think you had mentioned that in your message to me, and I knew a few of them, because we do obviously our cooking oil and stuff like that.
So you're probably doing Indonesia
and the wheat, and it's mostly what I found was it was mostly edible oils and grains, and then I think Argentina is doing 7 or 8 cuts of beef. But that's really what I found. And I thought that was just extremely interesting. Number one, it's going to completely exacerbate the situation again.
Yep.
I said, and number two, to me, it's a means to an end. I mean, if, the country, I get they're trying to keep prices down. I get that. They're trying to keep food in the bellies. I get that. But, if you make money off of exports, you just cut that cash flow right there. And there's not any country out there that manufactures everything they need.
Yes.
To survive. So, I mean, it's all a partnership. So if you start buckling down, and one of the things that the article said is typically when one country does it, it's like a domino effect. Several
chain effect. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a quote on my opinion on that, and it's from Hunt for the Red October. It was Scott Glenn.
Great movie.
And he said the hardest part about playing chicken is knowing when to flinch.
Yes.
And I think that's the epitome of that situation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I agree. We got some good comments. Do we want to get to the comments before we run over time, or?
Yes, definitely.
I think there's some questions too.
So Preet comes in here and says, "Good morning. I agree. There's been a shift in shipping receiving in the year 2022 versus 10 years ago."
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a different ball game. I mean, one thing that you said there, John, when it can turn, if you look at the turn of 2018 to 19, I think it was literally like a 2-week period when rates like plummeted almost 60-70%, and everything turned. Like, it felt like it was literally 2 weeks in the entire industry, like multi-trillion, double-digit, triple-digit, $1 trillion industry turned around. It's crazy how fast it happens.
Crazy.
Jeff says, not sure if you ship to CS Wholesale, so I guess it's Costco. But regarding your distributors, you will still be seeing delays in your inbound freight to them. What is the current state they are in from your point of view? So for your inbound freight, you're seeing from your distributors.
Like I said, we're doing pretty good. I mean, back 4 months ago when I first got to talk with you guys, I mean, we were scrambling trying to find capacity here and there. We've actually backed up. It's distribution and logistics are always impacted by whatever's upstream. Everybody knows that. That's not rocket science. But if you go upstream, and typically if you fix what's upstream, then the rest of the thing will come in line. Yeah. And that's a lot of that's to do with time. If the manufacturers are producing when they're supposed to be, typically you've got a little more time to find that capacity. You may have to pay a little higher rate for it. We all know that's happening, but it's easier to find capacity when you're at hour 1 than when you're at hour 11.
Yeah.
So you're not scrambling as much. The
at hour 11, it costs you a hell of a lot more.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait till that.
Anytime you go late to market, and it was just like one right after another. And now, so we're capacity's pretty good. I mean, we do help out, but we're getting ahead of the game. And that's really what supply chain is all about, is getting ahead of the game. Stop being so reactionary and be proactive and get out there and let's head the issue off at the pass before it becomes an issue.
Yes.
So
John, can I ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
And because I believe there's been a fundamental shift in that over the last couple of years. 5 years ago, were you trying to stay ahead of the game? Like, was that thought process a big part of what you did every year? Or it was kind of, because if you look up until, 18, 19, so before 2018, like when hours of service changed, sure, there was
That's
a shift.
when I first got in.
Right. But before 2018, there'd never been such serious shifts in capacity and freight rates and all of that. Like prior to 2018, it was almost like a steady flow, ebbs and flows, obviously, because we were still, I believe, very below the margin we should have been for freight rates. But were you ever thinking in this manner, call it 5 years ago, 2015, 2014, or was it kind of a distant?
There was the second half of 14 got kind of nasty from a capacity rate standpoint. I believe we had a pretty bad hurricane season, and FEMA sucked up a lot of trucks, and that caused a shift. So we were paying bounties on loads back then. But I think if you're worth your salt in this industry, you always try to stay ahead of the game. I say the game has dramatically changed, to your point, drastically changed, completely changed, but you're always trying to stay ahead of the game, whatever the game is. If it's a hurricane season, or
you have to be playing chess when they're playing checkers.
Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite quotes. Supply chain's playing chess while everybody's playing checkers.
Yes, sir.
Because whether it's our
kind of feels like Jenga at this point in time.
Man. And we are way at the top.
It's one of those ones where you're like, oh God, can I really take it? I take it. And then when you take it, you're like, oh.
I always ask, what level of Jumanji are we on?
Yeah, I love
you hear
that.
You hear the drum beating.
Yes. Ryan says you're so right about consumer confidence. We find that we're cooking more at home and getting takeout once a week instead of 2 to 3 times a week. 2 to 3 times a week takeout.
Listen,
jeez, brother.
What you're also seeing now is it's kind of a cascading effect. People who would normally go out to like a QSR, like such as us, are cooking more at home. People who are going to fast casual are going to QSRs, and people who are going to fine dining are going to fast casual. So everybody's kind of dropping it down, cascading to that next level, if not all the way out.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a pretty special occasion to go to like a Ruth Chris now.
Absolutely.
I remember, a decade ago, Ruth Chris was kind of like an every 2-week thing. My wife and I would go out on a date night every 2 weeks, we'll go to Ruth Chris. And it was, to eat, have a nice steak and all that. And now it's like, damn, there better be something special. Like, my grandma getting married again or something for me to be going for Ruth Chris. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta
I'm
prove,
like,
gotta
hell
prove for
no.
that tank of gas.
Well, yeah. So especially where I live, like it's literally $100 just to get there and back, and then a $500 dinner. That ain't happening, man. I gotta tell you, there's a whole lot of shiny things out there I want for $500. It's not going to be a steak, but yeah. That's crazy. Jeff says, John, speak of my language. We definitely on the same page. Yes, sir. So,
yes, sir.
John, quickly, what is the mission for 2022 now? Because when we have you on in a couple of months, we want to kind of see where you're at, where you're going, where you are.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to keep our eye on the tactical. Those forces that I mentioned that I keep my eyes on, we're going to continue to watch that horizon. Stamp those down as fast as we can. And then, like I said, we're focused more strategic. We want to move forward. We've got to do some price offsetting, some cost offsetting for our franchises and our company stores. And, you may not get those savings in food, but you can find those savings elsewhere. You can drive efficiencies in processes to get those costs, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's, nickels and dimes add up, and they will help offset, what we're trying to do. So that's really what we're focused on, is reducing cost anywhere we can and getting that back to our franchises and our company operators, so that they, even though their food costs are exorbitant, their overall cost of operation is minimal as it possibly can be, given the state of the affairs out there.
Got it. All right, everybody. Double-digit increases in getting that product to market. That's low double-digit, but still double-digit. So keep that in mind when you're speaking to your prospects out there, and everyone you're speaking to. Ask the questions, figure it out before you break into your pitch. DJ, the big question, my friend, is: does your quote match the roller coaster conversation?
We'll see. I don't know. I think it does, but we'll see. But again, thank you, John, for joining us as always, man. You're
the man.
The knowledge you have, again, and this is to Dan's point. This is low double digits to somebody who is a pro and clearly knows what he's doing. So if you're working with a guy, or a traffic manager, or somebody who has no clue, they're probably killed. So help them.
DJ, that's one of the best points of the day, brother.
Be a resource. Be a resource.
Yes,
sometimes you have to educate them.
It's more, use your resources and be as resourceful as you possibly can, because they're going to need it.
Absolutely.
But thank you, John, for joining us. Seriously, your knowledge and what you do is amazing, and your passion for it is crazy.
Appreciate you guys having me on. I had a blast, man. I always have fun with you guys,
brother. We're gonna have you next quarter as well. If you're okay, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Would you mind coming on?
If Shanghai opening didn't totally destroy everybody at that point.
Yeah, see, you should play one of my songs as my opening.
You
know what? We should have like this ring music, like in the WWF, to bring it down. Here is John Brewer.
If you're allowing us, yes, we're in to do that.
Yeah, we've got
John. Thank you, everybody, for joining us as usual. Our audience, you guys are awesome. Seriously,
we good, guys. See you.
All of your feedback, all of your comments, and just joining us daily. Sales Chatter Live. Again, you want to start your day right. You want to start your day with some knowledge and some benefit to bring to the world. Start your day right with us here at 9 a.m. till 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Get your information to take yourself to the next level. Thank you to American Logistics, Centurion Trucking for making this possible. Dan, as always, thank you. And I think I got a good one. I think so. Albert Einstein. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity.
Absolutely.
Actually,
100%.
Awesome, DJ. Bang on again, brother. We'll see
good.
Everybody tomorrow for Wins and Lessons Friday. And Mark Ridley is actually with us.
Is Mark with us?
I think. Didn't we say Mark is coming every week now?
Yeah, he said he was going to come every week. So
Mark Ridley's with us, the master man with the hats. Talk to everybody soon.
Bye, y'all.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information